Then an article gets published in the local paper calling Riverdale the worst town in America, which, like, yeah, everyone's really offended by this. And it's like, guys, you've had 900 serial killers. Obviously, you're trying to fix it, but, like, you can't be surprised. Hi, welcome back. My name is Carly if you're new here. Honestly though, girl, you should watch the other videos. If you do not know, I have made 2 other videos about Riverdale. This is the 3rd video. I said it was gonna be 3 parts. I lied. Sorry. And that is because when I was scripting this video, I realized there's an uneven amount of Riverdale seasons. There's 7 seasons, and putting 3 seasons into one video, it doesn't do it justice. It becomes so long that it makes me contemplate throwing myself off a bridge. So there's gonna be one more, the final season of Riverdale. But I'm gonna clickbait this, being like, how does Riverdale end? And you're gonna have to deal with it because you love me and you understand that making these videos melts my brain in a way that cannot be overstated. That's why they're so long in between these videos. I love doing them. I'm so lucky that I get to do them. Trust me, I'm not complaining. That part of my life means that I have to watch Riverdale and talk about it. Oh no, no, it's just that this show makes so little sense that sometimes it literally breaks my brain trying to create the graphics and everything like that. Like it really does melt my brain in quite a way. That's really all I need to say before we get into it. Besides the basic obvious disclaimer that I love this show. I'm gonna be making fun of it because this show is insane, but I want to say that, like, I'm a fan. You know what I mean? I don't think that teen dramas really reach the level of camp and the level of actual unhinged insanity that Riverdale hit. And I think that Riverdale is silly and insane on purpose. It knows exactly what it's doing. And that's fun. Have a laugh, you know? Hi, before we get into the chaos that is Riverdale, I just wanted to talk about this video's sponsor, Parade. I am so excited to be working with Parade. They are like the only underwear I really wear. Like, I'll get into it. I'll get into why I love Parade. If you didn't know, Parade makes underwear that is super cute and starting at literally $8. I love their focus on sustainability and inclusion, and I also just like love how they look. I hate wearing bras, but society dictates that I sometimes must. Also, I hate when underwear, this might be TMI, rides up my butt crack. I like can't ignore sensory feelings. They drive me insane and they make me have meltdowns. So Parade's underwear is literally my favorite because it addresses both of those issues. It doesn't ride up into my butt crack, causing me to have a meltdown on public transit. Their bras are super comfortable and supportive. This is their triangle bralette, and it's their collaboration with Gagne. They have a bunch of super fun collaborations. It's really comfortable. It's made with their silky mesh, and I hate wearing bras. I hate wearing bras. So the fact that I'm telling you this is comfortable and I'm wearing it, that's a glowing review. I'm also wearing Parade's Free Comfort Boxer. I love to wear these to just like lounge around in. They're made with upcycled cotton and tensile lyocell, which really just creates a super soft antimicrobial fabric so you don't get yeast infections or stuff like that. And finally, we have Parade's Invisible Sculpt High-Rise Brief, again in the color 8-ball. I literally want to say 25 pairs of these. They are my favorite underwear. I also have a very long torso. God gives his toughest battles to his strongest warriors. So I like that these are a little high-waisted. I feel like it creates a good line for me. It makes me feel good about myself. They're seamless, so if you don't want to wear thongs, but you want to wear like tight pants or leggings or whatever, they're seamless. You can do that with these. It's made with their seamless universal fabric, and it is the first carbon neutral seamless underwear, okay? And it's made from rescued materials usually wasted in the production process. So if you want to try Parade, and you should, they're actually having a summer sale right now, and you can get 50% off from June 1st to July 5th. I actually took advantage of this deal because I'm addicted to Parade, apparently, and I got their Luminous Glow Triangle Bralette in Dinner Party. It's like this silky little bralette with like pastas and little food items on it. So cute. So if you use my code uncarley50, you get 50% off your order. Again, use my code uncarley50 and get 50% off your order. I hope you get something great that makes you feel good, because you wear underwear every single day, so you should feel comfortable and good about yourself. Thank you so much to Parade for sponsoring
sponsoring this video. Let's talk about Riverdale.
Okay, so this is season 5, all right, mama? So when we last left our heroes, they all graduated high school. Our 37-year-old cast has graduated high school, and we've done a time jump. It's a 7-year time jump, okay? Where is everyone? Archie joined the ROTC, then joined the army, and fought in a indiscriminate war. It doesn't matter. It's technically the modern day in Riverdale. We find that out later, that like the year is quite literally 2024 or whatever year these like when the episode came out. Okay, it's not like a random, like it is quite literally in the 2020s. They are dressed like World War II or World War I. There's kind of like a Saving Private Ryan vibe. I don't know who they're fighting, and I want to know quite badly. So Archie is back in town now because he is like heading up the ROTC. He's like the coach of the army thing at school. I don't know. I'm Canadian, and to be honest, I don't think we have this here. ROTC is like army class. It's literally, I'm so sorry, America, love you to pieces, babe. I do not understand it. It's class about army, and you go into army. So he's coming back to become an army teacher, and he goes to Le Bon Nuit, the child speakeasy, but because it's a 7-year time jump, presumably it's not a child speakeasy anymore. However, it's been turned into the White Worm, which is like the Serpents bar. The Serpents, of course, are one of the many gangs on the show. I hate the gang warfare on the show. I don't think it's interesting or good, but the Serpents nevertheless are back. Tony, where are you, girl? Tony is running the White Worm. She's a serpent queen. She is pregnant, but won't say who the father is, okay? Kevin and Fangs are still dating. So that's good. I don't know why Kevin is still in town. He quite simply wanted to pursue his Broadway dreams, but he's here. Betty is in FBI training, okay? She became an FBI agent, presumably brought on by the fact that she solved multiple murders while in high school. I just saw that this document is 52 pages long. Sorry, I'm having a meltdown. Presumably this is brought on by the fact that several members of her family are serial killers. She's still like, she hasn't graduated from FBI training academy yet, and she's been put on like desk duty basically. This is because when she was out in the field, she was captured by the trash bag killer and held hostage. This is one of the main mysteries for this season. Right here. This is the trash bag killer. He is kind of a Silence of the Lambs style serial killer, but without like, there's something innately chic about Hannibal Lecter. I don't think it's good to be a cannibal or a murderer, but there's something about Hannibal Lecter that is kind of innately chic because he's like polite or whatever. The trash bag killer is truly unhinged. He's literally just a murderer. There's none of any of that. Oh, I guess he's not Hannibal Lecter. He's like Buffalo Bill, okay? It's a Silence of the Lambs reference. It's a Silence of the Lambs reference, okay? So he's in love with Betty. He's a serial killer who never takes off his mask. His mask is a bunch of trash bags, and he's unhinged. I am genuinely terrified of the trash bag killer. Whoever in the art department designed this mask, horrifying, horrifying, horrifying. She has an FBI boyfriend named Glenn. Where is he? Right here, and you just know he's not really gonna last long. Any ancillary partner that's not one of the core 4 or like 6 is never gonna last. They're basically a pawn placed in the storyline to add some romantic tension. So sorry, Glenn, you will be missed. Veronica has been living in New York. My favorite piece of Riverdale lore is, of course, that Veronica's mom, Hermione, is a Real Housewife. So Andy Cohen has, of course, entered the flowchart. I don't know. She is a investor. You know when somebody like explains their finance job to you and they're like, I'm the chief consultant to the blockchain consultant, blah, blah, and you don't know what it means? That's what this is. Basically, she is called the she-wolf of Wall Street because you can't just be the wolf if you're a woman. You have to be she. Little known fact. And she has a boyfriend named Chad, who is also an investment banker, and they're an investment banker power couple. She isn't an investor anymore because her and Chad got in a helicopter accident, and that made him stressed for her to go to work, which seems like a lie, but okay. One thing to note about Chad, who's right here. He kind of looks like a melted Harry Styles. This is no shame on the actor. I look like a melted Lily Rose Depp. It's just, he looks like Harry Styles, but different, okay? Veronica now also has a jewelry selling business that's kind of criminal that she doesn't tell Chad about. Jughead is working as a writer in New York City, but he's not in contact with Veronica because, as we know, it's illegal for writers and investment bankers to hang out. So he's a writer, he has writer's block and drinks all day and has to turn in a new book to his agent, but is lying about writing pages. And he'll lose his advance if he doesn't turn in the pages. He's kind of like Riverdale's very own Caroline Calloway. He is drinking, and as people who experience alcoholism do, he goes to the bar, picks up a grad student. Thank God I had to look up that she was a grad student and not a high schooler. I thought they just dropped in a bit of stat rape in the middle of the Riverdale season 5 premiere. She's a fan of his books. They have sex. He steals her manuscript and hands it in as his own. Awesome. No notes there. Cheryl is yellow wallpapering back at Thornhill, her family's manor in Riverdale. She is basically a woman insane. She's lost her mind a little bit and is not leaving the confines of her family home. Hiram, our favorite villain, thank God Hiram is here. This guy right here. He, as always, is on his destroy Riverdale bullshit, and his new henchman is Reggie Charles Melton. The last video I filmed in this series, I was like, Charles Melton's gonna win an Oscar. He didn't get nominated. I mourned. He's a phenomenal actor. And as we go through this series, I'll talk about, like, you can really tell when he left to go film a movie with Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore, because he comes back and you're like, okay, he's awesome. So Reggie is now Hiram's henchman. Reggie's dad owns a car dealership, and he doesn't get along with his dad because, as we know from lore before, his dad is abusive. This show kind of forgets this and doesn't really talk about it again, but his dad is abusive. So he has kind of a surrogate father relationship with Hiram and is his kind of evil henchman. Hiram wants to buy the Blossom Maple Groves because palladium, the really, really valuable mineral, is in the Blossom mines, which are under the Maple Groves, and he wants to sell that. That's palladium right there. Cheryl also has a side hustle where she paints forgeries of artwork because everybody has to kind of have like a criminal adjacent thing going on, besides Archie, who did war, which I guess is criminal, but he was just a pawn, you know what I mean? She paints hyper-realistic forgeries and sells them for millions of dollars, and she has a flirty thing going on with art dealer Minerva Marble. Where's Minerva? There. Right there. They again add her to kind of have a flirty thing with Cheryl while Tony and Cheryl aren't together yet. I love Minerva. I actually think these two are really cute, and I'm mad that it's just a ploy for Choni to continue. Riverdale is being decimated by Hiram because he hates Riverdale, and his ploy is it's just cartoon villain, which is why he's so fun to watch. And Mark Consuelos, who plays Hiram, is just having the most fun being the most evil man on the planet. And basically, Hiram wants to build Sodale, which is like a very wealthy suburb, and in order to drive the property rights up there and drive the property rights down at Riverdale so he can buy the palladium mines, he's basically like paying the Ghoulies, which is the other gang. I hate the Ghoulies. I hate the Ghoulies. This gang warfare has been a Riverdale plot point forever. I hate it. I'm so sorry. I really don't care about it. Basically, he wants to build a highway through Riverdale to get to his expensive suburb. And he's devaluing the town by having the Ghoulies do crime. And he's also trying to get Riverdale High to close by giving all of the students free scholarships to Stonewall Prep, the private school, and paying teachers to go there too. So there's no teachers in the high school. So the gang has to get back together and start teaching at the high school. Now, Betty teaches mechanics, Archie teaches gym, Kevin teaches drama, Veronica teaches economics, and Jughead teaches English, so I guess there's no math classes at Riverdale anymore. You can take economics if you're that interested. Girl, the students need math. I never thought I would be pro math, but you still have to learn it. Tony is the guidance counselor and kind of like a surrogate principal at the school, making sure that this all goes down, okay? Jughead also works at Pops because he's in incredible debt and is an alcoholic, and he meets Pops' daughter, Tabitha. This is Pops, my king. I love Pops. I love him. Best character, hands down. His daughter, Tabitha, my second favorite character. You would not believe that my favorite character gets introduced raw in season 5, but I with Tabitha. I love her. I think she's a great addition to the cast. She's just a capable woman, small business owner, girl boss. And they kind of like pair her up with Jughead, presumably because Lili Reinhart and Cole Sprouse broke up and they didn't want them to be together at this time. But I think she's fucking awesome. It's just a great addition to the cast, gives everybody like a little partner to go off and do sleuthing and fun stuff with. I love Tabitha. Tabitha lived in Chicago and got an MBA or a business degree and is now coming back to basically make sure that Pops, the family institution, is running. Why did that happen? I'm being silenced right now. Archie is starting the football team up, and because he is first and foremost a Hillary voter, he's hashtag with her. The quarterback of the football team is Britta. Britta's right there. She's a lesbian. She doesn't know it yet. You know, the whole show's like, can you believe she's a lesbian? And we're like, girl, I saw it. The second she walked in to the high school, I was like, oh, good, a lesbian's here. Archie's house has been turned into a drug den by the ghoulies, and when he goes there to try and raid it with Sheriff Keller, he sees Polly, Betty's sister, looking strung out. She looks like she's on drugs. It's also heavily implied that she is not working at the diner or the bar that she says she is. She's actually a sex worker. And, you know, in the Riverdale universe, to be a sex worker, that's a slippery slope. It's not, you know what I mean? The representation of sex work in Riverdale is not great. I don't know if that's surprising to you. Then we see Polly get into a truck driven by a trucker, surprise, and drive off. This is the third mystery this season. The lonely highway trucker. There's somebody who's killing women along the lonely highway, the highway leading into Riverdale. This town can't catch a break for 1 minute. Who's doing that? Also, Betty and Archie have shower sex as friends. You can't really see her picture. I'll put it big on the screen right now. The extensions they have Lili Reinhart in for this season, free her. Free her. Free Lili Reinhart from these extensions. Good God. Veronica's marriage with Chad is on the rocks. As we know, he's basically a pawn to get her back with Archie or somebody in the gang. He doesn't want her to stay in Riverdale. He wants her to come back to New York and just kind of be a housewife. Archie wants Chad to invest along with Veronica in the high school football team, and Chad's like, you shouldn't be asking for handouts. Kind of conservative bullshit. Chad sucks. Chad is like, he's like, I'm socially liberal but fiscally conservative. And it's like, shut up. So they're on the rocks. Betty takes into custody randomly with her full gun a random trucker who she found used to be in contact with Polly. And she like pistol whips him and is like, where the fuck is my sister? Crazy Betty, no girl, you can't do that. You cannot simply just pistol whip somebody you've taken into custody randomly. And he's like, I haven't seen Polly in a really long time, when she jumped out of his truck and ran away. Okay, so somebody murdered Polly, we assume, or she's missing along the lowly highway. Wasn't this trucker, it's a different trucker. Archie, because he doesn't have enough to do based on the fact that he's an army veteran with PTSD, really couldn't get through that word, running the high school football team. He's also running the ROTC at school. He's also doing the volunteer fire department. This is basically the show's excuse to have him and a bunch of the other characters fully shirtless and like wet, whatever. His crew though is also made up of an old army buddy of his, Jackson. Right here. So Jackson kind of exists in this universe to give Archie someone to talk to the war about. And to that I say, where were you? Who were you fighting? Was it oil interest? What war? I need to know. I desperately need to know what war this was and what they were fighting for. Because if Riverdale is canonically in America, I don't know if you're on the right side, babes. I really don't. Tony and Cheryl are both coaching. They're co-coaching. That seems insane as a word. The Vixens, the cheerleading squad, they're doing their like second chance enemies to lovers where they're like not getting along. They do a dance off, and imagine it's your first day of cheerleading practice and your coaches are ex-girlfriends and they're doing like a sexy little dance off to you. Bad. Jughead, inspired by working at the diner and being in Riverdale, is writing his new novel called An Elegy of a Small Town. He's talking to Tabitha about it, and Tabitha tells him to talk to Old Man Dreyfus. Now, Old Man Dreyfus is just kind of like an old man who lives in a shack in the woods, and he has crazy stories, okay? So you know things are about to get fucking good. He tells Jughead about the Mothman. The Mothman is the final mystery of this series. Season 5, overpacked. but that's fine. 30 years ago, he was working in the mines off the Lonely Highway, presumably the Blossom Palladium mines. And one by one, I have to read this because it's so insane. And one by one, his friends were being abducted up to an alien ship and returned. He believes these aliens to be the Mothmen and live in the caves along the Lonely Highway. So somebody's murdering women along the Lonely Highway. The trash bag killer is out and about. Hiram wants to take over the mines and also wants to build a highway right through Riverdale. And according to Old Man Dreyfus, there's a group of aliens that live in the mines off the Lonely Highway who abduct people. You keeping up? Jughead then talks to my queen, Nana Rose. I love Nana Rose. She's just an old woman with cataracts in this show, and she's just... you can put her, she solves any problem. You could be like, oh no, the power's out, and Nana Rose is like, I have electrical power. Like, she's just a blanket problem solver, okay? So she lets him know that she actually has, coincidence, it's, coincidental, what's the word? Like, caramelized? That's wrong. Fossilized. Caramelized is like onions. Fossilized is like a body. She is a fossilized alien corpse that fell into a vat of maple syrup just kicking around the house. And you can have it. So Jughead goes to work at Pops with this body in a vat of maple syrup and shows Tabitha. And Tabitha's like, there's simply no way that's an alien. Like, there's no way to know. Tabitha leaves. And Jughead has this really freaky experience where he either hallucinates or it actually happened, being almost abducted by an alien ship. Okay? And when he comes to, the alien body, allegedly, in the maple syrup vat is gone. Okay? Glenn, Betty's FBI boyfriend, surely gonna be cheated on. Oh, he has been. They had sex. Never mind. I don't really know if they're together. They're living together, have a cat. Maybe they're open. More likely, Betty's just fully cheating on him. So Glenn calls Betty to let her know that TBK, the trash bag killer, is missing. And he's back and he's murdering again. And she doesn't take this great because surely he's gonna come and find her because he's obsessed with her. But that's a fair reaction, okay? Kevin and Fangs are engaged in having Tony's baby and they're all gonna raise it as a throuple. Two things can be happening at once, A serial killer can be trying to attack Betty and also a throuple is raising a beautiful child. But the pressures of this relationship and being perfect are getting to Kevin and he keeps cruising in the woods with truckers, functionally cheating on Fangs because they're not open. Jughead goes to a paranormal therapist specialist who tells him that it sounds like this alien abduction is actually trauma he's suppressed. Okay? But Jughead keeps hallucinating Mothmen around school and he's worried that he's actually going insane. Jughead goes to a support meeting where he talks about how he used to constantly black out because he was drinking. He used to do drugs and drink in New York, and he has a lot of holes in his memory. And also, on the heels of that, Cheryl is throwing a key party with her bestie, Minerva, who knows none of these people but is there. A key party is where you put your keys in a bowl, half the people put their keys in the bowl, the other half pick people's keys up, and then you have to go and basically maybe hook up with them. It's like a 1960s poly thing. Here are the pairings. Veronica picks Archie's keys, but Chad, who is there, steps in and they leave and the vibe is bad. Jughead picks Tabitha's keys and she just takes him home because he's super drunk because he has addiction issues. Minerva picks Jackson's keys, Archie's friend from Army. Reggie picks Fangs' keys, and I hope they hook up. Kevin picks the keys of a trucker that Fangs brought, just so there was an even number of gay people, and the trucker is one of the people that Kevin keeps cruising with and cheating on Fangs with. Cheryl and Tony are left together, okay? And Cheryl, in an insane act of manipulation, brings Tony to a room in Thornhill and is like, look, it's a bassinet. Why don't we raise your baby together? So Tony gets upset about this and leaves. Fangs leaves and says, turns out Reggie is 100% straight, which is tough to hear. He goes home with Kevin and Kevin tells Fangs about his cheating and they break up. Archie tells Betty that he has feelings for Veronica and he wants to explore that so they can't be together. And then he goes to kind of angrily, sulkily wash a fire truck with his shirt off. And Veronica shows up and says she and Chad are getting divorced and they should try this whole thing out. Minerva and Cheryl kiss and it's flirty vibes. And then Polly calls Betty and screams, they're coming! And then the call cuts out. Betty, because she's FBI, traces the call to a phone booth by the side of the highway and the phone booth is absolutely blasted in blood. So Polly might be dead. May she rest, may she rest. Betty does a blood test. She has Glenn help her with this, and Glenn says that the blood is the same rare type of blood that Polly has. Betty lies to her mom about this because she doesn't want her mom to have a psychotic break, and is like, it's not Polly's blood, so don't worry about that. And surely that lie won't come back. Betty then grabs her gun and just starts pistol whipping random truckers on the highway trying to find out some information about this. Just absolutely yanking them from their trucks and slapping them on the head with her gun. Insane behavior, not legal, a full abuse of power. Betty has lost her fucking mind. She almost shoots a guy point blank, and then Jughead calls her so she doesn't. He like randomly decides to call her. Betty, what if he didn't call you? Jeez. Jughead wanted to talk about Lerman. Logan Lerman. I think his name is Lerman Logan. Maybe I'm imagining that. It might just be a little bit of sauce that I inserted into the narrative. Lerman is one of his students in the English class that he teaches who draws disturbing drawings that look like the Mothman. So Jughead thinks that Lerman is being abused and that trauma is manifesting as the Mothman. So Jughead tells Lerman's parents about this, and they understandably pull him out of school. Glenn then shows up at the Cooper's house and is like, hey, Mrs. Cooper, sorry about that blood being Polly's. Mrs. Cooper's like, what? No, it's not. It doesn't match your blood type. And he's like, no, I ran it and it is. He's also taking over Polly's case, like for the FBI, which is a massive conflict of interest, but sure. Kevin, spiraling post-breakup, tries to hook up with some guys in the steam room and gets homophobic hate crimed. Let Kevin have a win. He then talks to his father about this and is like, I have a lot of complicated feelings about my sexuality because when I was growing up, my mom, who is in the army somewhere, she's off at some base, made homophobic comments to him. When are we gonna get a Kevin has a good life storyline? Meanwhile, Archie and Jackson are confronting a sergeant that oversaw Archie and Jackson in army, and the sergeant sent them into battle knowing they were gonna fail but did it anyway. And if Archie says something, the sergeant's like, I'm gonna ruin your life. And the sergeant is set to get high honors and Archie wants to stop it. So Archie and Jackson testify against him and the sergeant is dishonorably discharged. Hiram again wants to purchase the Blossom Maple Groves and he has to buy them from Cheryl because if you don't recall, as a graduation present, Cheryl's mother killed all of Cheryl's family besides Nana Rose and herself so that Cheryl is the executor of the Blossom Maple Groves, whatever. Cheryl says no, Nana Rose says no to Hiram, so Hiram blasts open the wall at the for-profit prison he built, releasing all the convicts into the streets. They riot at the high school, they light the Blossom Maple Groves on fire, all these insane things. And Riverdale, I'm calling bullshit on this because I do truly think if you just did a prison break, most people would be like, oh, I'm gonna run. I'll probably run. So the jail has been exploded. So Chick and Charles is Betty's brother, half-brother, who's also Jughead's half-brother, and Chick is his boyfriend. They're both murderers. They break out of jail, show up at the Blossom's house, and are like, we're gonna get married. You're gonna officiate our wedding. We're crazy. Glenn shows up because he's got the worst timing in the world, and they take him hostage, and they try to get Juniper, which is one of Polly's children, to stab him. And Betty stabs him instead because she doesn't want Juniper to lose her innocence. And to that I say, girl, she's being held hostage by two serial killers and just watched her aunt stab her boyfriend? You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't have her innocence, okay? Basically, then she throws the knife at Chick and Alice takes Charles down. Charles gets shot, no one dies, but they escape. Then Betty decides to dress as a trucker and get behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler and go cruising looking for Polly's murderer. Jughead, meanwhile, trying to write his novel, decides to take mushrooms in the teen sex bunker. Girl, we missed you. If you are new, this is the first video you're watching. The teen sex bunker is a World War II style bunker in the forest in Riverdale, and all the teens over the course of the many seasons have sex, so it's the teen sex bunker. Jughead takes mushrooms and they all leave him alone, but then Tabitha comes to check on him and give him food, and she just sees a bloody handcuff because he had handcuffed himself to the table so he wouldn't leave. So he's gone rogue. So in order to find Jughead, Betty, Tabitha, and Jughead's ex Jess, who's right here, all take mushrooms to get in his mindset I don't know. They go to Pop's, and Betty shares a voicemail that Jughead sent her the night of his book launch, where he says, "You found the one person that would hurt both me and Veronica, and you just went there," because she hooked up with Archie and cheated on them. "You're a cold, fake, duplicitous bitch, and once people read my book, everyone's going to see that." So that's the wedge in between them, and fair enough. It's hard to come back from that. Meanwhile, Penelope, Cheryl's mom, who escaped from prison during the prison break, is starting a ministry at their house. Bear with me. She's starting a congregation about how the chosen son died for their sins, but instead of Jesus, it's Jason, Cheryl's dead twin. Cheryl sees that Kevin is bummed out about his sexuality and his breakup, so she invites him to be like the artistic director and basically sing songs of the congregation. Cheryl, in order to take over the congregation from her mother, because she wants to do this, first her and Kevin sing Jesus Christ Superstar. Sure. And then they have to perform 3 miracles. Cheryl has to perform 3 miracles. And she's like, I'll just do magic tricks and those fucking idiots will believe it. So she turns maple syrup into wine and bleeds from no wounds, which is a thing, I guess. But then finally, Cheryl sticks her hand in a giant beehive without being stung. And she says, "I will smite thee, for I am Cheryl Blossom, queen of the bees." And this wasn't a trick. She actually did this and now thinks that she's a witch who has magic powers. Jughead, meanwhile, still missing from his shrooms trip, wakes up in Skid Row. He's just living in the encampment for some reason. Like, he can leave. Do you know what I mean? I don't really understand why he's there, but he's talking with the people who are unhoused who live there, and he runs into Doc. Now, Doc, when Jughead was trying to join a secret society when he was at the Stonewall Prep, he had to admit one of his greatest regrets, and it was that he saw Doc get beat up and didn't do anything after Doc saved him when he was getting beat up. But he's run into Doc again. Doc is alive. Jughead hides his identity from Doc because he's so ashamed that he didn't help him after all those years. Girl! Doc tells him to go to New York because he has unfinished business he needs to attend there. So Jughead calls Tabitha and he's like, "I'm good, I'm going to New York." And then he hitches a ride with a trucker. Jughead, no! Then we have a Hiram Lodge bottle episode about Hiram Lodge's origin story. I'm gonna only recap the relevant information. Reggie's dad is upset that Reggie is getting into criminal stuff and hanging out with Hiram. Babe, you beat your son, you don't get an opinion, okay? I want to hear a little bit less from you. The reason Reggie is working for Hiram is because his dad is in a considerable amount of debt and Reggie wants to pay it off. Reggie has paid it off now, but just wants to continue working for Hiram, and his first job for Hiram is to get an untraceable gun, which Reggie does. Then Hiram tells the story about how his father, Javier, right up here, which is just Mark Consuelos, like, in a gray wig with a gray mustache, and his son is playing young Hiram. It's iconic. He moved to Riverdale to find palladium, but failed, and then shined shoes outside of Pop's, and Hiram was embarrassed by this. He needs money and wants to get a date with Hermione, so he gets a job with the local gangster, Vito. He gets busted for drug trafficking but doesn't snitch, so Vito inducts him into the mob because he doesn't snitch, okay? But then Javier gets mad that his son is getting involved in crime, so he confronts the mob boss, and then Vito has one of his goons gun Javier down in the parking lot of Pop's. So that's why Hiram wants to find palladium, because he wants to finish his dad's unfinished business. Hiram then takes that untraceable gun and goes to the nursing home where Vito is and shoots him truly point blank. Okay? So now those two are dead, may they rest. Betty, meanwhile, cruising on the highway, gets picked up by a trucker who literally has massive splats of blood on his door, and she texts Tabitha to track her. He says creepy shit and then pulls over and grabs a chainsaw to chainsaw her to bits, but Betty knocks him out with a wrench. She takes him hostage in the school's auto garage, ties him up, and basically starts torturing him to get Polly's location out of him. She keeps getting flashbacks to the time that TBK, the trash bag killer, held her hostage in a well in his house. The trucker starts playing mind games with Betty and is like, "Polly squealed like a pig when I slit her throat," and whatever. So Betty just grabs the chainsaw, says she's gonna carve the trucker bit by bit but keep him alive, and then he swallows his own tongue to kill himself. That makes sense, right? The trucker is this guy, by the way. Archie starts seeing a therapist for his army PTSD. Whenever Archie is working in the palladium mines, which he's doing now, He has hallucinations of his dead friends, so he takes medication from Dr. Winters, but he keeps going into the mines and having wild hallucinations about aliens and develops paranoia. So he storms into the therapist's office and is like, "You're drugging me." And she's like, "No, I'm not." And he's really scary and violent towards her. Then they all find out that there's carbon monoxide in the mines. I don't know why this story, it's so random. So he's having carbon monoxide hallucinations, so he apologizes to the therapist, and the therapist is like, "Well, yeah, but I can't see you because you violently threatened me." And Archie's like, okay. He's dealing with PTSD. Jughead is now in AA getting sober. Love that for him. And he shares in AA that the night of his book launch, he got so drunk, sent Betty that mean voicemail, and then fell down the sewer and just kind of walked around the sewer and eventually passed out, got swarmed by rats, and had to get treated for rabies in the hospital the next day. And he was the rat king of the rats. Also, Cheryl and Minerva have sex. Great. Josie is back in town, and she's a multi-platinum recording artist. Josie, we love Josie. The show does not know what to do with her. And she went solo without the Pussycats. Val, where is she? Is an artist. And Melody wrote a novel that's being optioned by Tyler Perry, who is now entered the flow chart. Okay, Josie wants the Pussycats to get back together, and they throw a benefit concert to raise money for Riverdale and apologize for all being such friends to her back in the day, which, fair. The other Pussycats come back into town, and their reunion is rocky because they're hurt about how she ditched them, blah, 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 blah. They eventually get back together, and they go on the road. This is basically like a potential kind of backdoor pilot, being like, what if we did a Pussycats pilot? Which I want. Give me that show. I would watch the out of that show. Veronica sells her father's palladium collection so that she can divorce Chad. And then Hiram, because he's mad that Veronica stole his palladium, gives Chad that untraceable gun that he shot Vito with and is like, "Go shoot Archie. Peace and love." So Chad goes to do that. He tries to shoot Archie but misses. And then Archie absolutely obliterates him with the can of a trash can. He just hits him like Captain America in the head. Veronica and Archie have sex because she's single now. Then Chad goes and tries to kill Veronica with the untraceable gun. And then she wrestles him for the gun, shoots him dead. Chad is dead. Also down here, Tabitha's like, "I haven't heard from my friend Squeaky, who's a sex worker who works on the Lonely Highway. I don't know where Squeaky is." Squeaky is just fully dead, okay? Squeaky is dead. Don't get attached. Jughead admits to his agent that the manuscript he gave him was actually Cora's, and his agent has to drop him because of this, obviously. Jughead apologizes to Betty in the teen sex bunker and says, "I'm getting sober now." They reconcile, it's nice. Betty and Jughead are now investigating as a duo again. Yes. Jughead finds Lerman, talks to Lerman and is like, "Hey man, what's going on?" And Lerman's like, "I've been sleepwalking and I slept walk and I woke up in a metal shed that looked like a spaceship." Dr. Curdle finds Squeaky's corpse. Squeaky is obviously dead. Then Betty gives the dead body of the trucker who swallowed his own tongue to Dr. Curdle. And Dr. Curdle's like, "Hey, I did DNA tests on him. He's fully related to you." And Betty's like, "What?" So then they go talk to Nana Rose, because if you recall, Betty and Cheryl are cousins. So they're like, something is rotten in the state of Denmark. Nana Rose says that her cheating husband had children with his mistress, and she gave them to a family that lived in the woods called the Starkweathers. So Betty, Tabitha, and Jughead go to look for the Starkweathers shed in the woods, and they realize that Old Man Dreyfus is a Starkweather and part of this serial killing kind of like inbred woods living people. Okay, is it an offensive betrayal? For sure, but that's what's happening. So the people who are killing the women in the trucks, that's the Starkweathers. And the Mothmen is because they would take them hostage in their like metal sheds, and people are like, oh, and they looked, I guess, kind of messed up because they're inbred. It's not a good betrayal. I don't stand by the implications of this. Okay, so it's this serial killing family in the woods, okay? So they're like, let's go find him, I guess. Jughead goes to get a confession out of Old Man Dreyfus, but then it cuts to Tabitha and Betty, who are looking for Polly, and then they get attacked by a swarm of Mothmen. It's insane. It feels, you're like, they're just men in costumes, and then they're like, those are the Starkweathers, the Mothmen, and you're like, these are men in costumes. It feels insane. They escape, and Old Man Dreyfus says that Polly's body is in the trunk of a car somewhere in the junkyard, so we know that Polly is dead. Britta, high school quarterback, comes out to her parents. They kick her out, so she goes to live with Cheryl. Sure. Sure, I guess that makes sense. Tony and Fangs decide to still have the baby together platonically, just as platonic friends. Sure. Hiram bombs the palladium mines and all the miners are trapped in, but then Cheryl does a witch spell and gets them out, and she's a fucking witch now. So then Cheryl turns the congregation, remember the congregation, into like a Wicca coven, and Kevin leaves because of this for some reason. Then because we know that Polly's dead, it's time for the musical episode. This episode is next to normal. So yeah, Aaron Tveit is canon in the Riverdale universe. Hide your girls because they're gonna salivate over this tenor. So when Betty was young, her, Polly, and Alice went to see Next to Normal on Broadway. And now kind of Alice has entered this fugue state because she's in denial about Polly being dead and sees Polly and Chick and all of their family as this like happy 1950s family that's normal. And they sing the songs from Next to Normal. Sure. I like it more when the musical episodes are about like a musical happening, but I guess they can't like really find a reason unless they did a community theater to have all the adults in town be in a musical. But I would like that more. So basically then Betty and Alice reconcile. Alice blames Betty for Polly's death for some reason. Then Betty apologizes and is like, I'm gonna stay here and take care of you, Mom. And then Polly's ghost leaves. Great. Tabitha and Jughead are dating now. Obsessed. Love those two. Also in this episode, Veronica and Archie move in together and it doesn't work out. So they sing Superboy and the Invisible Girl and they've broken up. I hope, stick with me. Veronica wants to go back to New York and re-become the she-wolf of Wall Street, but because she shot her husband point blank in the chest, her reputation is a bit tanked. Awkward. But luckily, Reggie comes to Veronica with a proposition. He wants to open a casino in town. So Veronica and Reggie open up this casino in Riverdale and are dating now. Obsessed with these two. I do really think that those two actors together are really good. They like do have good banter and they play off of each other. It's nice. Betty has graduated from the FBI Academy despite not attending class for a year seemingly. And she tells Archie she's going to stay in Riverdale and open up the Riverdale FBI office, which is honestly probably a good move. This town has so much crime. They need that. He tells her that Veronica and him broke up and now they have like flirty vibes again, okay? In other news, despite becoming official in the last episode, Jughead and Tabitha are moving in together. Jughead is now teaching English and chaperoning the school newspaper. Then a ghoulie. I hate the ghoulies, dude. I don't want to deal with them. I don't care about them. Throws a Molotov cocktail through the window of Pops. This is Hiram's doing, and Sheriff Keller arrests him, but they can't hold him without proof, so the gang is scrambling to find criminal proof that Hiram did this. They all search his office, find nothing, but King Reggie, his criminal henchman, has a thumb drive, and the thumb drive has the security camera footage of him shooting Vito point blank in the old folks' home. So they turn that into the sheriff. But then Veronica and Archie kidnap Hiram from his cell and they bring him to the edge of town where everyone's there with guns and they exile Hiram. Okay, so Hiram's exiled. This is the season finale. This is it. There's so much happening. TBK, trash bag killer. He calls Betty on the phone, okay? Now these two, killers on the highway and Mothmen, have been solved. Palladium mine, Hiram trying to destroy. The town is solved because he's been exiled, and I guess that'll stop him. But we haven't gotten any closure on TBK. He calls Betty to congratulate her on graduating from FBI Academy. He is fully naked, just shirtless, besides his mask on. And also, he's alone, so like he can take the mask off. You know what I mean? Like you're alone, he's talking to her on the phone. Like he doesn't have to be wearing the mask. He's like, I'm gonna come and find you. I'm in love with you, whatever. Tony and Fangs like reform the Serpent King and they're dating and I really don't care, but I want to care about them because I do like the actors and I want to like, I really want us to really get behind. Why? I want to get behind this bi couple, obviously. Happy Pride, right? It's just that every storyline they basically get is about the serpents, and I've been very clear on the fact that I do not care about the gangs in this show. Now, there is a town meeting to reincorporate Riverdale because they've been trying to save the town. Kevin is not there because Kevin goes to Broadway to chase his dreams. And I love that. Kevin, I better see you in Moulin Rouge, in The Outsiders. Get Kevin on the Great Gatsby musical. You know what I mean? So before going to the town meeting, Cheryl finds a shit ton of skeletons in her mind. And she asks Nana Rose about it, and because Nana Rose is all-knowing, she tells the story of Cheryl's ancestor Abigail, right here, who refused to sell the Blossom maple groves in like colonial times. So the town called her a witch and killed her. And the members of this town were the ancestors of Veronica, Betty, Archie, and all the main people. Because I guess no one ever fucking moves in this town. So Cheryl storms into the town meeting and demands a public apology for what they did to Abigail, which is valid, but maybe not the right time because they're trying to do something else. They don't want to deal with it. So then in the middle of voting, Cheryl announces that Thornhill is its own sovereign state, and it's succeeding from Riverdale. Whatever, they reincorporate Riverdale, yay! Archie and Betty decide to make a go of it and be a couple because Archie can't be alone for 1 second. Then the dark thoughts come in and he cannot deal. So they decide to get together. They have sex on Archie's bed, and underneath is a bomb Hiram planted, and it explodes. Da da da! End of season 5. Iconic. Sorry, I had to silently drink a water. You ever do that? You're just like, oh, first of all, my head looks like a pin. I can't function as a human anymore. That's what happened. Okay, so the bomb explodes and we have entered Riverdale. At the beginning of every single Riverdale episode, there's like a little blue kind of neon looking script and it says Riverdale. Now it's red and it says Rivervale and you're like, what the hell is going on? The bomb explodes, but they didn't die from the bomb. They're just alive now and they're thinking of starting a family. But all of the women of Riverdale are inexplicably barren. Free birth control, girl! Jughead is narrating everything, and he says Rivervale is a place of nightmares and dreamscapes, a place where superstition outweighs science and folklore carries more weight than fact. Sure. Kevin calls Betty, because she's running the FBI still, and says that he found a deer sacrificed in the woods, which is mildly concerning, but feels like small potatoes for the FBI. Like, your dad's the sheriff, Kevin, respectively, just call him. Because Thornhill has succeeded from Riverdale, Archie and Cheryl are enemies, but I guess Thornhill and its maple groves account for the majority of the economy in Riverdale. So now Archie and the town council, the town of Riverdale is now being run by town council with all the main characters on it. They have to figure out how to improve the town's economy. So now every person in town is given a maple sapling to take care of. This sucks, dude. Politicians suck. And now Cheryl has an army of teen girls. She's running a girls' home because remember she took Britta in, the lesbian football player, but now she's just got a bunch of teen girls. Okay, they're all maybe witches ? And they make poppets and scary dolls, and the scary dolls kill the trees that the townsfolk are taking care of. Feels like the girl, don't worry about that. The townsfolk, a random citizen is not gonna be able to keep a maple sapling alive. I wouldn't really worry about that. Betty sees the dolls and is like, oh, I recognize that from a case 50 years earlier, which you're 20, but I assume she saw it in a file. And it's a case in which the Blossoms sacrificed a drifter. We never get closure on that sentence. Tony and Fangs are dating, and they have a baby named Baby Anthony. So Baby Anthony is born, and he has colic and won't stop crying, so they bring him to Dr. Curdle, the mortician, I guess is the only doctor in town. And Dr. Curdle, because he's a freak, says put a toad on your baby's tongue and it'll stop the colic. And Tony obviously is like, no, I'm not gonna put a toad on my baby's tongue. You're a doctor. You went to medical school. Alternatively, there is an old serpent tradition where you leave your baby on a tree stump overnight and that cures your baby's colic. Fangs is like, my parents did this to me, so let's do it to our baby. And that's the cycle of abuse. Don't leave your baby on a tree stump. But they do it, I guess? Okay. And Cheryl obviously stops Tony from leaving her baby on a tree stump. And Cheryl's perfume calms the baby down and the baby doesn't have colic anymore. I don't know, man. We're operating in opposite day. Nothing makes sense on this show. Frank, Archie's kind of surrogate father figure and uncle, is having flirty vibes with Alice, Betty's mom, but then when they try to have sex, he's like, oh, well, I have a wife and children and they died. To be honest, do not remember this at all. I don't know if it happened and I wiped it from my memory, or if it's new, if it's new information. So sorry about that. Jughead and Tabitha are living together and their apartment is infested with bugs, and Jughead spends the majority of his days, even though he seemingly has 2 jobs, just writing on a typewriter in a tattered little robe. Tabitha girl, get out. So all of the couples are kind of in a tough type of way, okay? Archie and Betty can have a baby. Reggie and Veronica are stressed about starting the casino. Fangs and Tony, their baby's crying. Tabitha and Jughead's apartment is infested with bugs. And Cheryl goes to each of these couples individually and is like, to solve your problems, all you have to do is come to my Maple Festival. So everyone's like, absolutely, let's go to the Maple Festival. And at the Maple Festival, they have to compete with Archie in a series of tests. Jughead loses a pancake eating competition to Archie. Reggie loses a log sawing competition, and they're all purposefully losing. Like, you can tell that they're all losing on purpose, and they're all like, afterwards they'd go up to Archie and be like, hey man, I always loved you. And Archie, because he's a himbo and has never had a single thought in his entire life, is not like, it seems like these people might be gearing up to levy an attack on me. Betty puts one of the creepy dolls next to their bed and they have sex. And then Betty gets magically pregnant. Listen to this. I'm gonna read this word for word. Kevin calls Archie to Thornhill to save Betty, who was kidnapped. When he gets there, the entire town is there. They knock him out, tie him to an altar, and cut his heart out. This fixes everyone's problems and reserves the Blossom Maple Groves. So Archie is dead. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Archie is continuing the tradition, in a long line of main characters who are the least consequential characters in the show. The show is about Archie and nobody really cares when Archie's dead. I know what you're thinking. Archie's been sacrificed on an altar. This show used to be a teen mystery. What's the next logical step? Is it the devil comes to Riverdale and his name is Lou Cypher? Like, his last name is Cypher and his first name is Lou. So the devil's in Riverdale, okay? That's him right there. Only in Riverdale could the devil show up, and his picture is tiny on my graphic, because he's just not that consequential. So Jughead is like, I want to sit down with the devil and write an interview with him, which is an insane reaction to finding out that the devil is in Rivervale. So the devil allows him to publish their chat and never write again, or he can't publish the chat. Jughead chooses to publish the chat and never be able to write again, but not being able to write drives Jughead insane. So he begs the devil to let him write again in exchange for his soul, okay? Kevin also gives his soul away for a showbiz career. So the devil is collecting souls, okay? Glenn calls Betty because the FBI has captured the trash bag killer, who is still one of the mysteries in this season. What happened to the trash bag killer? Who is the trash bag killer? But he won't talk to anyone but Betty because, again, he's in love with Betty. So Betty shows up. Turns out this wasn't Glenn. This was the devil. The devil was posing as Glenn. And the devil wants Betty's soul in exchange for her father's soul and Polly's soul because both of their souls are burning in hell. So Betty stabs the devil who was possessing Glenn, so Glenn has died. Betty's killed Glenn. I hope that makes sense to you. Pops is in the hospital, and the devil comes to collect Pops' soul. Pops, get behind me. Lou Cypher, hit the bricks. You're gonna have to go through me to get to Pops. Instead, they agree to sell the diner to the devil instead of Pops' soul. The show is so fucking crazy. And at the diner, they serve the devil a milkshake, get this, infused with the Virgin Mary's tears. So the deal is off. Where the did you get the Virgin Mary's tears? The devil comes to the casino to collect a soul because Reggie sold a soul in exchange for the casino's success. Okay, so Veronica's like, oh great, well we'll just give him Nick St. James's soul because he sucks. He tried to sexually assault Cheryl in a season of past, and the Pussycats beat him up while singing Out Tonight from Rent. So he's kind of a bad guy. So the devil does take Nick's soul. And he's like, oh, but that doesn't count because Reggie didn't give away just any soul. He gave away Veronica's soul specifically, which is wild. That's a bad move, Reggie. Like, you simply can't do that. You simply cannot just be giving away your girlfriend's soul. So Veronica's trying to find another soul in exchange for her soul, can't find anyone. So in her office that kind of overlooks the casino, she sings Lady Gaga's Marry the Night and then strikes a deal with the devil to provide a new soul to him every week in exchange for her soul. And the first soul that she gets is Reggie's. So Reggie's dead. I forgot to put an X on Nick St. James, but he's dead too. And honestly, I don't want him to rest. I don't care about him. Now, let me get into the witch lore, because if you recall, it's been kind of lightly suggested that Cheryl is a witch, okay? And her ancestor Abigail was a witch too, okay? Bailey's Comet aka Halley's Comet, but Riverdale version, is a powerful time for the Blossom Witches, a long line of witches that inhabited Riverdale. In 1892, Abigail Blossom was cursed to be immortal, so she created different personas, including Cheryl, to hide that fact. So she's present in Cheryl. This does not make any sense, because later she possesses Cheryl. It's just that if you're looking for answers, you're in the wrong show. Okay? So Cheryl is in some ways kind of like a Horcrux, a vessel for Abigail. Okay? But not really. Cheryl doesn't want this to happen, so she invites Sabrina Spellman over. Kiernan Shipka has entered the chat. Okay? So Sabrina Spellman from, of course, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which is in the whole Riverdale, Pretty Little Liars, Original Sin, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, extended universe. She's a witch. She knows Cheryl for some reason and comes over, okay? And they're going to do a body swap to take Abigail out of Cheryl's body and put it into Nana Rose's body. And this is because Nana Rose is sick and going to die. So if they put Abigail into Nana Rose's body, then she can finally die and be free because she wants to die. Yeah, like she wants to die because she's immortal, okay? Sorry, I had to really think about this. Sabrina also lightly kind of insinuates that witches can never die, period, even though it's canonic that Abigail has been cursed to be immortal. So if witches can never die, how can you be cursed to be immortal if that's just what witches are? And this is, I guess, to explain that Sabrina, I guess, died in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I don't know, I didn't get to that part. I stopped watching the show. So this makes zero sense, whatever. But then everyone wakes up in their beds and everything's normal. It's all been like everyone like wakes up and they're like, that's weird. So everyone who died, Glenn, all these people are alive again. Reggie's back because his soul isn't gone. Nick is back because his soul isn't gone, even though he doesn't really deal with the plot. Everyone is alive again. Also alive, Ethel, Ben Button, and Dilton Doily, who died in like season 2 or whatever because of the Gargoyle King. So things are weird, okay? Dr. Curdle also calls Betty and says that he found Jughead's corpse in the woods, but Jughead's alive. So what's happening? Jughead, looking around, finds comic books, and some of them are Riverdale and some of them are Rivervale, and he's like, that's weird. And they detail events that have already happened. So they're like comic books about their lives, okay? And he places together that, let me read this word for word. The explosion of the bomb that Hiram placed under Archie's bed caused a rip in the space-time continuum and created Rivervale as an alternate reality of Riverdale. So we're in Riverdale's alternate reality, okay? Jughead tells everyone this, and as soon as he tells them, they're all like, oh, I remember. Okay, cool. Okay, I remember that. So Jason is alive, and because Ross Butler played Reggie in like season 1, then left the show to join 13 Reasons Why, and they cast Charles Melton. But now in Riverdale, they've brought Ross Butler back, so they're both like, wait, if you're Reggie, then what? Very funny. I think that that's genuinely quite funny. So both of these Reggies duel and they die. So Reggie's dead again, okay? He's dead again, okay? Great. The Black Hood is back and it's revealed that it's Clifford Blossom who's alive. It's very chaotic. Basically, these space-time continuums are like smashing in on each other and people are dying and coming back to life and it makes no sense. It's revealed that Dilton Doily, who in the first season was just shooting an unlicensed gun in the forest, is now an evil mad scientist who doesn't want them to get back to the regular timeline because he like is a mad scientist or whatever. So Ethel poisons him and kills him because she's also a physicist. Both Rivervale and Riverdale can exist. Neither shall live while the other dies, you know, Harry Potter type shit. So they have to save Riverdale, and in order to save Riverdale, they have to kill Rivervale, okay? And they can't really figure out how to do this. So they think they need to recreate the bomb. So they have Veronica and Jughead make out on Archie's bed as like an alternative version of Betty and Archie. They are having sex with the bomb underneath to like recreate it. But then Archie, who hasn't been around at all, bursts in and he's evil now because it's like alternate universe. And the reason that he doesn't want them to get back to Riverdale is because he thinks that in the alternate universe, he can find his dad again because his dad died because the actor who played his dad died, okay? It's a thin premise. If it sounds thin, it's because it's thin. So Betty shoots him and kills him, and then Betty and Jughead start making out and having sex, and then another Jughead walks in. So there's 2 Jugheads. They kill Archie again. There we go. So Dilton's dead too, and Archie has been shot dead again. And this Jughead is another alternate universe Jughead who's figured out how to save both universes, okay? This is also insane, so I have to read it word for word. All Riverdale needs to survive is a new power source to fuel it, because all of the power is gonna go to Riverdale. So Riverdale needs a story generator, because the new power source will be imagination. Jughead is a writer, so if he continues to write nonstop, the two universes can live in harmony. So Jughead locks himself in the teen sex bunker in Riverdale and writes on a loop to save the universe. Doing this sends everyone back to Riverdale. Good God. So we're back to normal. So now they're back in the regular timeline. Everyone's alive, whatever. Archie shields Betty from the bomb when it goes off, because we go back to the moment in which Hiram placed a bomb under Archie's bed and him and Betty are having sex on top of it. Archie shields Betty from the bomb going off, and this works, and he's not hurt because he has superpowers now and he's invincible. Now, listen. I know that you would think when we would get back to the regular timeline, things would make sense. That's silly of you, because now they have superpowers. Archie is invincible. Bingo the dog, who is Archie's dog that he got as a support animal after coming back from an indecipherable war, is able to heal himself. And Betty's superpower is she can see auras, and she can see when people are about to do evil acts. Okay. Kevin comes back to town and gives up his Broadway dreams because he wants to raise the child that he was supposed to raise with Tony and Fangs, okay? Glenn shows up, remember, okay, so Betty's FBI boyfriend, and tries to sexually assault Betty. Like, it's never explained, like, why this personality shift happens, but he does. And she can sense his energy is menacing, so she's like, something's up. Then Archie comes in and beats him up. But then the trash bag killer rushes in and kills Glenn. My phone is on the floor. It's fine. So, Glenn is dead because the trash bag killer, still at large, kills Glenn for disrespecting Betty. I'm still fully terrified of the trash bag killer. I'm scared. Betty, because she's traumatized by this event, understandably, gets all of the men removed from Riverdale's FBI unit. I don't know how she has this ability and power. She literally just graduated FBI school, but she gets every man removed. It's an all-femme FBI unit. I love the chaos of this. It's awesome. Abigail possesses Britta, Cheryl's lesbian quarterback child, and then she possesses Cheryl. See, this is the thing where it doesn't make any sense. She's possessed Cheryl, but she is Cheryl. It doesn't make any sense. So we have 3 mysteries, okay? Who is the trash bag killer still? Percival Pickens. Who is Percival Pickens? What a great question. He's kind of the big bad of this season, because Hiram Lodge, aka Mark Consuelos, the actor, doesn't want to return to Riverdale anymore, so they have to figure out a new bad guy. So he's kind of the same shit where he's like, I want to destroy Riverdale, whatever. So that's kind of a whole thing that's going on. And then this one is there's shit going on with time, and we'll get to that. I know you were worried that there wasn't enough alternate universe string theory happening, so don't worry. Veronica calls out a hit on her father Hiram and kills him. Okay, she lies to Reggie about doing this. She calls out a hit, kills her father. Hiram is dead. Rest in peace, Hiram. You will be missed. Not really, but like the Mark Consuelos, the spice, the energy, the oomph that Mark Consuelos as Hiram gave to this show, unmatched. May he rest in peace. Percival Pickens moves into town. I'm really trying not to pop my peas too hard. He buys Archie's house, which has been exploded. Jughead is also losing his hearing, okay? He's slowly going deaf and he doesn't know why. He assumes it's because of the explosion which he heard. But as he loses his hearing, okay, he can read minds. Everybody's got a superpower. Why? Great fucking question. The show wasn't supernatural for a really long time, but now it is. So the trash bag killer is in town, obviously, because he absolutely murdered Glenn. He starts sending Betty Glenn's body parts to be like, look what I did for you. And Betty's like, oh my God, the trash bag killer is my blind spot because I can never see his aura and know if he's about to do an evil act. And it's like, Betty kept you in a well in his house for weeks. And he's also murdered several people. I think you can, it's just a given that he's evil. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to like look at his aura to be like, I think he might do something evil. It's like, he's evil, girl. He's evil. He's a serial killer. Okay? Archie realizes, obviously, he's invincible. but his only kryptonite, his like the thing that actually has an effect on him, is palladium from the mines. The trash bag killer figures this out for some reason, ties Archie up, and plans to kill him. But Alice, Betty's mom, is returning Bingo from the vet and pushes the trash bag killer out a window. He doesn't die, but she pushes him out a window. It's awesome. The show doesn't really like know what to do with Alice at this point. They kind of make her go back and forth between being like an absolutely rancid, horrible, borderline emotionally abusive mother to Betty, and like this traumatized woman, and also this badass. Like she at any given moment is gonna act in a way that you've never expected just because they need her to like fulfill the plot. But we love her nonetheless. So Cheryl is Abigail, right? She's possessed by Abigail, and she sees Tony, who is an ancestor of Thomasina. Now, in colonial times, Thomasina and Abigail were lovers. Fangs' ancestor was a witch hunter. So Abigail sees that the descendant of her lover is dating the descendant of a witch hunter who killed her. And she's like, no, I need to be with Thomasina. I'll leave if I can be with Thomasina, whatever, okay? Then an article gets published in the local paper calling Riverdale the worst town in America, which like, yeah, everyone's really offended by this. And it's like, guys, you've had 900 serial killers. Obviously you're trying to fix it, but like, you can't be surprised. And it's revealed at the town hall meeting when they're talking about it that Percival Pickens up here, he's like, yeah, I wrote it because I care about the town and I want it to get better. It's just that there's so many unhoused people. And he doesn't say that. He says it meaner than I do, and it's still pretty mean coming out of my mouth. And he proposes, first of all, closing the casino because it's like a gateway drug to crime, and bussing out all of the unhoused people to different places. So he's like evil in a different way than Hiram is, because like Hiram's kind of like a mob boss. Percival's just like evil in the way a politician is, you know what I mean? He's like an evil politician, which is like not as fun. So Jughead and Archie are like, no, we'll just get a team together, and they start building micro homes for the people who are experiencing houselessness who live on Skid Row. So the team's like, we're building micro homes. Hell yeah, hell yeah. And then Doc, we remember, Jughead's friend from Skid Row, hits Kevin in the head with a hammer. So that really puts a stop to the project. And when they talk to Doc in jail, he's like, I don't remember doing it all. It's like somebody told me to. Like somebody whispered in my ear and I had to do it. So somebody can control minds. It's Percival. Percival can control minds, okay? He's like the super villain. Great. Aren't we all happy superpowers were introduced? I'm so happy. This is my least favorite season of all of them. The last season, season 7, actually low-key slaps. It's insane, but like good. This superpower stuff, I'm like, you can only push me so far, okay? Percival can control minds, and he made Doc hit Kevin with a hammer so that they could shut down the project, because he basically wants to take over Riverdale, and we don't know why yet. Percival then controls all the minds of all the people who live on Skid Row and makes them leave Riverdale, okay? Also, he's a cop. Also, he got the town council to not invest in the casino, which is fair. So the casino is doing like shady business. Betty has to start wearing big sunglasses because she's getting migraines from her aura reading superpowers. So she is wearing big sunglasses inside. I wish I was kidding. I'm not. It's awesome. There's a drive-by shooting at Pops, and then the ghoulies kidnap baby Anthony because a gang war is happening. And I mean, if a gang is kidnapping another gang's baby, maybe Percival has a point. Like, he's not a good guy. He's really not a good, like, he's anti-homeless and a cop, but like, it does seem like this town needs help. Like, we need to fund it. Also, Abigail as Cheryl, because Cheryl again is possessed by her ancestor Abigail, joins the ghoulies. Like, if this doesn't make any sense to you, it's because it literally doesn't make any sense. And I'm so sorry. Like, then everyone performs an exorcism with Nana Rose on Cheryl. They exorcise Abigail's spirit and she's gone now. And they put her in the doll. If you recall, the Julian doll from a couple seasons ago, Cheryl thought it was when she was fully keeping her dead brother's corpse in her house that her brother's soul had possessed a little doll, but it was actually not Jason who had died, but Julian, the third Blossom triplet that Cheryl absorbed in the womb. Okay, so they banished Julian's soul at the end of that plot point, and now they put Abigail in the Julian doll. Are you following? So there's gonna be a gang war between the Servants and the Ghoulies. Who cares? They have a gang fight. They're supposed to meet at the parking lot of a tuna factory. Why? But it's a setup, and the cops are gonna take down the Serpents, okay? And the police show up and are gonna like do police brutality, but then Tony pulls out her iPhone and says, the world is watching, you better watch what you do. And I understand the sentiment. I think that Riverdale's trying to like kind of engage with Black Lives Matter and things that are happening in the press, but I'm like, girl, you can't just start live streaming. How many followers do you have? I've got issues with this. Although TV shows are obsessed with having characters go live, whatever that means. Nobody goes live more than a TV show character does on their social media. Nevertheless, I digress. They get baby Anthony back from the ghoulies, and then Percival mind controls all the ghoulies to shoot themselves in the head, which, like, honestly, if I could mind control, I would have gotten all the ghoulies to shoot themselves in the head 5 seasons ago. Now, the gang knows. Jughead, deaf, by the way. Just don't forget that. He's writing a graphic novel about his experience going deaf and reading minds. They're like, oh, we need to fight Percival. Percival's our villain, right? This guy. And how do you fight mind control? Jughead's like, oh, you need someone to look up to. Which I don't really get. So they basically want Archie to become like a superhero. And how they do that is they have K.O. Kelly, Katie Keene from the Riverdale spinoff Lucy Hale. Lucy Hale as Katie Keene. Her boyfriend is like a professional boxer who knocks people out with one punch. And if he fights Archie and Archie survives, then Archie's invisible, I guess. However, Percival mind controls K.O. Kelly to walk into traffic. Lol. As you do. And then Percival's like, oh, well, I'll step up and I'll box you. And he puts palladium in his boxing gloves and he destroys Archie. So they're like, well, Archie's not a superhero. Okay. Kevin is back in town, obviously, giving up his Broadway dreams, and he's trying to get full custody of baby Anthony because baby Anthony was kidnapped by the ghoulies. Cheryl discovers that she has the power of pyrokinesis and she can light people on fire. Bro. Percival also wants to build a train station and like a train track that goes right through Pops. Okay? So Jughead and Tabitha are fighting against him, trying to get Pops to be a historical landmark. Okay? A ghoulie walks in and shoots Pops, and the shock from this event sends Tabitha back to Christmas Eve 1944. Okay, which leads us to the final kind of mystery this season. Ow! Time travel. That's right, bitch. Strap in. I hope you're looking forward to it. So Christmas Eve. Did I say New Year's Eve? I meant Christmas Eve. 1944. And Tabitha is talking to Raphael, who is her guardian angel, who just looks exactly like Jughead looks. Okay? And there's a town meeting, because it's 1944, to decide if Riverdale will become a sundown town, which is a town from real history, in which Black people have to leave the town limits by the time the sun goes down. So they're voting on whether or not that's going to happen. And the head of the town is Percival, or at least one of Percival's ancestors. Something fishy is going on here. I want to read this word for word, okay? Again, this is the only way we can do this. The reason Raphael, Tabitha's guardian angel, disguises himself as Jughead is because his true form is so grotesque it would make Tabitha go insane. So Tabitha wants Raphael to show Percival his true form and make him go insane. They do that, he goes insane, then Percival shows up in a straitjacket and shoots Tabitha. This sends her not back to the future, but to 1963. Upon arriving in 1963, Tabitha decides that she wants to stop Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. She doesn't, because the Riverdale writers don't want to touch that. So she fails. And Percival in this time, because one of his ancestors are Percival, blah, 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 whatever, bans all public gatherings because of, like, I guess, communism or whatever. So Pops has to close by 6 p.m. so the business will fail. Now, what Tabitha does is she calls up J. Edgar Hoover of the FBI. She gets him on the phone. How? Doesn't matter. And she says she knows about the secret files, so he has to let her, the head of the FBI, not really his venue, keep Pops open past 6 p.m. I wish I was joking. Percival then bombs Pops, and this sends her back to 1999. Percival is mind-controlling teenagers to write racist graffiti on walls. It's the 90s, baby. So Tabitha goes to his creepy little shop of mysteries and trinkets. She finds the Holy Grail, which turns out to be Tabitha's talisman, which allows her to control her time travel. So then she drinks a Pops milkshake from the Holy Grail from the Bible. She puts a milkshake into the Holy Grail and then drinks from it. You're getting tetanus. And then that brings her back to the future. It is then revealed that her talisman was Pops all along the building. So she didn't need to put a milkshake into the Holy Grail, which should be in a museum, but she did anyway. Through going back and forth to the future, now that Tabitha has her talisman, Tabitha goes to the future and looks at all the different alternate futures to figure out what they need to do to defeat Percival. The gang is like, we're gonna stage a coup. We gotta stop Percival. We're gonna do a town meeting. But then a fog rolls into Riverdale, akin to what they call the Great Fog of 1922, which I don't know if is a real thing or a made-up thing, but it's a thick-ass fog. Betty and Archie have sex, then she tells him that the reason that the trash bag killer is obsessed with her is because when he was holding her hostage, he saw that she was like him and they were the same. Serial killers love to look at Betty and be like, we're not so different, you and I. And he threw her a body to dismember, and she could either dismember the body from the whole or he would kill her, and she dismembered the body, and she feels guilty about that. Obviously, Archie, ever the himbo, is like, you had no choice, whatever. Kevin is supposed to meet Tony and Fangs to settle the custody dispute, but the fog rolls in while he's at school, so he can't make it, because I guess they can't drive in this big fog. So he reconnects with the PE teacher, who is Moose. Let me find Moose. Oh, Moose, wherefore art thou? Okay, well, I can't find him, but he's real. He's real, and so Moose was obviously Kevin's, first boyfriend. Moose's homophobic father pretended to be the Gargoyle King to stop Kevin and Moose from having sex, but now they're rekindling. But because Kevin missed the custody battle, Fangs wants full custody of baby Anthony now. So the custody dispute's going to court. Penelope is a nun now. Cheryl's mom is a nun, and Cheryl tries to burn her alive using her pyrokinesis. But Penelope's like, no, I'm trying to repent for my sins. So here are all these letters that Heather wrote. Do you remember Heather? And Heather was Cheryl's middle school best friend that she was in love with and had a crush on. And they were both gay for each other. But then she moved away. Heather moved away. And Heather wrote to Cheryl, but Penelope intercepted all the letters so that Cheryl thought that Heather forgot about her. But Penelope's like, here are all the letters from Cheryl. Heather, I've put on. There she is. She's in there. Okay. Jughead is like, hey, Tabitha, so you know how you can go back in time? And Pops is your talisman all along. The real milkshake in the Holy Grail was the Pops we made along the way. Can you go back in time and stop the bomb so I don't go deaf? And Tabitha says, I can't, because that's a fixed moment in time and I can't change that. But girl, you wanted to stop the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Is that not a fixed moment in time? I have questions. The fog clears, but during the fog, I guess everyone else went to the town meeting and they've all elected Percival mayor now. So evil Percival is mayor. Okay, not good. And then Tabitha's like, let me come clean, Jughead. It's not actually about the fixed moment in time. And he's like, yeah, I know you wanted to stop the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., I assumed. She's like, I've gone through all of the different outcomes and we need you to be deaf in order to stop Percival. Percival now wants to close the library for some reason. And everybody in town, I guess, for some reason has overdue library books that they've just kept, and they have to return them. And if they don't return them, Percival basically takes collateral from them. So I'm gonna read every person in this town has an overdue library book. Guys, you have to return those. I don't want to side with Percival because he's evil and a racist and hates homeless people, but you do have to return your library books. So Jughead had the Metamorphoses, and his collateral is the book that his grandfather wrote. Remember, his grandfather wrote the Baxter Brothers, so that's his collateral. Archie took out Songwriting from the Heart, and his collateral is his guitar. Remember when Archie wrote songs? And now he's like a superhero? Veronica took out Kiss of the Spider Woman, and her collateral is this massive portrait she has of her father that she hangs above her desk to remind her to never be like him. Cheryl took out Flowers in the Attic, and it was a book she read with Heather, her middle school crush. And her collateral is a trunk she has, like a travel trunk, containing Jason's bones. This doesn't feel very fair. Archie gave his guitar away. Cheryl is giving away the remains of her brother, but okay. Betty took out Small Engine Repairs, and her collateral is her diary. Reggie took out a workbook for children with dyslexia, teaching them how to read, and he has it and found it and hands it over to Percival. Kevin took out Lord of the Flies. He has it. He hands it over. When Kevin gives Percival back this book, Percival says, you never have to feel like Piggy again. The character in Lord of the Flies said, spoiler alert, but the book came out a long time ago. kill. So I don't really understand that, but okay. And then Percival kisses Kevin. Kevin is in the trenches. So Percival, the reason he wanted to get all these like collateral things is because he wants to cast a spell on everybody using these collaterals. And like each of these items that they gave Percival connects the spell to them, if that makes sense. So Archie starts having nightmares and he sees Miss Grundy's dead body. Veronica has a nightmare about killing her bodyguard. Reggie is dyslexic again. Okay. So Reggie's like, something's not adding up. I can read. And he shows up to Percival's shop and he's like, something fishy is going on. And he accuses Percival of being a wizard, to which Percival replies, I'm a magic man, you might say. Which is worse, just say wizard. Jughead finds all of their library books so they can all get their collateral back. And then they all have to burn their like items so that they can free the spell. Jughead doesn't because he, and I quote, it's a book. I'm not burning it. What would Ray Bradbury say? And I want to draw attention to this line specifically because in the next season, which we will get to in the next video, there's a character called Brad Raybury who is basically Ray Bradbury. So Ray Bradbury and Brad Raybury both exist? They both exist? No. So that's all done. The spell that Percival put on them is lifted. Now, on to Veronica. She discovers that her blood basically filters out all toxins. That's her superpower. She's got magic blood. When she finds this out, she does what any normal person would do and performs Toxic by Britney Spears at a shareholders meeting. These characters love to sing. Archie wants to break his kryptonite to palladium, you know what I mean? So he keeps exposing himself over and over again to palladium, and he talks to Cheryl about this. And Cheryl makes Archie like a palladium soup that he has to drink, and then uses her witch fire to turn the palladium in his system into iron to forge him. When she says, I'm gonna do this, Archie just responds, forge me now. And he's invincible again. In other news, Heather, Cheryl's middle school crush, is a librarian in Greendale, and she comes to town and they're like flirty vibes. I love this. I love Heather. I like when they give Cheryl something to do, basically. They uncover Heather and the gang through like reading books and context clues and whatever, that the reason Percival wants to build a train station at Pops is because he wants to create basically a vessel for the ghost train so that ghosts, that ghosts can come back and dead people can come back and he can have an army of dead living in the dead. Cheryl gets the railroad builders to strike because she finds an old letter in her archives that Percival's great-grandfather wrote about how unions are bad. And I don't know if you know this, but if your grandfather has written an offensive letter, your workers are going to strike. So they strike, they want to unionize, and Percival's like, no. And he tries to mind control them all back to work. But then Tabitha and Archie and Cheryl sing like a worker solidarity song, and that cuts through the mind control and they unionize. Is that not insane? Betty's evil half-brother serial killer Charles, who tried to get Juniper to stab Glenn, has cancer. I think he has leukemia canonically. And the hospital infirmary is too full, so they let him come home, which truly makes no sense. This makes no sense. And so much in this, they have superpowers. Archie just forged himself. I know. But this is insane to be like, oh, well, when a murderer is sick, he can just come home. Because he's also not like super weak, whatever. He's not even like, he should just be handcuffed to like a hospital bed. Nevertheless, I digress. Betty, through talking to him and talking about the trash bag killer and all this stuff, realizes that it's like not like the leukemia that's just killing him, but it's also that like Charles' dark soul is killing him. So they give him a blood transplant from Veronica, whose blood, as we know, basically kills toxins. And this cures him of his cancer and his darkness. Never explored further, by the way. Girl, you just cured the illness. You need to get this to a lab. People are dying. And because he's feeling better and apparently just free now, Charles is like, I'm going to help you out with that trash bag killer situation, Betty. You need to hold a serial killer convention all about different serial killer stuff. And he's such a narcissist because serial killers love attention that he'll come and you can catch him. So that's what she does. She, in seemingly a matter of days, organizes SlaughterCon, a serial killer fan convention. Also, Cheryl and Heather are dating now, and baby Anthony is inducted into the gang as an infant. There's a lot going on. And Jughead, who is deaf but can hear people's thoughts, gets cursed by Percival, and now he can hear everyone's thoughts all the time and he's going insane, so he locks himself in the teen sex bunker. So now it's time for the musical episode. It's American Psycho, the musical at SlaughterCon, bitch. Get in, we're going to SlaughterCon. So SlaughterCon is taking place at Veronica's casino, and she's like, I'm really worried that like someone's gonna get killed in my casino. That's very bad press, even though canonically it wasn't important to the plot. The devil made a gambler hang himself. Who cares? So she's like, somebody's gonna die at SlaughterCon, and Charles says that it's an unwritten rule amongst murderers that you don't kill where you eat. We love our fans. We don't want to murder them. Famously not true, but okay. Kevin at SlaughterCon performs a number from American Psycho, and it's like really choreographed in like strobe lights and 80s, whatever. And it ends with someone putting a plastic bag on his head and seemingly strangling him. This obviously traumatizes Betty, the whole convention is an FBI sting operation for the murderer who's out there and killing people close to her and trying to like murder people. So Betty jumps up on stage and rips the bag off, and Kevin's like, you're ruining my performance. Kevin, girl, read the room. Meanwhile, Cheryl enlists Kevin to perform a spell to drive Fangs and Tony apart because Fangs and Tony are getting married now. And the spell makes their baby sick, so they have to undo it with Heather. I just wanted to include that because it's to be like, I want to drive them apart. Let's do a spell to drive our exes apart, and then it makes their baby sick. Can you imagine? Betty has a panel at SlaughterCon where it's basically an interview between her and her mother, and they're like talking about the trash bag killer, right? And she's trying to like, they're taking calls and they're trying to lure the trash bag killer out. And TBK calls in and he's like, this is pathetic. I know you're trying to catch me, but I love you, Betty, and this is gonna end with you and me in a kiss in the dark. So creepy. So then Betty heads home afterwards, and TBK is waiting for her at the house. He's tied up Charles and Alice in the kitchen. You don't have to tie up Charles, babe. He's a full killer. It's fine. And then he has this whole dinner set out for him and Betty. Okay? And he's like, we're in love. I love you. All this stuff. She has a gun and shoots TBK and unmasks him. And TBK is a random guy. You heard me. He's a random guy. He's not anyone we know. He's not anyone we've seen before. He's not anyone we'll see since. He's just a guy. Can you actually believe that? Can you actually believe that? He's just a guy. He's just a guy. That's insane. Anyways, fucking Percival sends biblical plagues on Riverdale. There's like Lotus and Blood Rain and blah, 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 blah. But also Tony and Fangs are getting married. She asks Cheryl to officiate the wedding, which is absolutely menace to society behavior. And they also ask Kevin to be the wedding singer. This is the most bisexual wedding I've ever heard of, by the way. It's like your exes are every single working person at the wedding and they are actively in love with you. Veronica sings Ladies Who Lunch at their rehearsal dinner, making it fully about her. It makes no sense. That song in context barely makes any sense. And Percival enacts like the final biblical plague and he kills all the firstborns, okay? Jughead's dead. Archie's dead. Kevin's dead. A lot of people are dead. But luckily, Heather, Sapphic Queen that she is, knows a necromancer. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So Sabrina comes back and she basically helps all the girls that are still alive, like Cheryl and whatever, Cheryl and Betty and Veronica. And they all just become witches by like signing their name in a book and having a dance party and whatever. So they become witches so that they can bring everyone back from the dead. They do this, they bring everyone back, including Polly and Jason, so they're all alive again, okay, baby? Also, by bringing Jughead back, he can hear again and he's not hearing everyone's thoughts, okay? He's regained his hearing. Tabitha decides that now's as good a time as any to reveal that Raphael told Tabitha that baby Anthony, Fangs and Tony's baby, is immortal, and that Tabitha is the guardian angel of all of Riverdale and a time witch and an angel. Can you believe that? So that's good. Percival, enacting full war against Riverdale, trying to get the dead, his army of the dead to come whatever, sits down to an interview with Alice on TV. Okay? This is because he's brainwashed Alice and he just like wants the attention, whatever. This interview is taking place right before he televises the execution of Kevin and Reggie. He wants to televise the execution of Kevin and Reggie, okay? But he's doing this as a palate cleanser before that live execution, where Percival kind of gives his villain speech being like, I bet you're wondering why I did this. Well, let me tell you. So Percival arrived in Riverdale in 1580 on the Ruby Pearl, which was the colonial settler boat, alongside the rest of the town's founders, like those people that like killed Abigail, Cheryl's ancestor. He chose to study witchcraft, and he was found out and sentenced to death. He was then left alone in the woods to starve to death when the devil came and visited him, Lucifer. And Percival made a deal, his soul in exchange for immortality. He then returned to Riverdale almost 400 years later, and something to do with the explosion basically took Percival from Riverdale into Riverdale when they all came back on this side. So he's from Riverdale, but he's now crossed over into Riverdale, if that makes sense. But he was like, well, I want to be evil, and I'm immortal, and I wanted to like control the dead and have an army of the dead and kill everyone and destroy the town because they murdered me for being a witch. So I'll just do it here instead. So while he's doing this, they save Kevin and Reggie from live TV on-air execution. But they'll get a text like they're in Pretty Little Liars, and A is texting them, letting them know that Alice, Tom Keller, and Uncle Frank have all been murdered. May they rest. May they rest in peace. May they rest. The reason Percival wants to build the train specifically where Pops is because that's the land in which he was left to die. And it's a hellmouth and a really like thin spot between the land of the living and the land of the dead. So it'd be really easy to get dead people to cross over, and he could have an army of dead people, okay? So he starts controlling people. He controls Bingo the dog. Leave him out of this. Reggie, Veronica's abuela, which isn't really important. Zombie Glenn. Glenn is a fucking zombie and he's trying to kill Betty. Like, does this series make any sense to you? So Betty uses a chainsaw to absolutely obliterate zombie Glenn. Reggie has like a palladium blade and he's stabbing Archie, and Archie starts to choke him out. Jason is controlled also by Percival, and Cheryl has to burn him alive, so he's dead. And Archie is dying from these stab wounds even after he's fought Reggie off. And then Bingo the dog, remember how he has magical powers of healing. He licks Archie's wound and heals him. So Archie's fine. Also, let me just say, we had the whole forging storyline where it was like Archie isn't susceptible to palladium anymore, only to have a palladium blade come back. Make it make sense. So the only person who can fight Percival and bring him back to the 1500s and deliver him to the devil is somebody who is also immortal. Remember how Tabitha found out from her guardian angel Raphael that baby Anthony is immortal? Well, she creates a time bubble around the infant, ages him up to an adult man, and that adult man goes hand to hand with Percival. Are you paying attention? Then they all are fighting Percival in like the Pops parking lot. Jughead can also make portals now, by the way. He's just dropped. New power just dropped. Jughead can make portals, okay? And Jughead makes a portal in the entrance to Pops. So everyone pretends to lose to Percival. So when Percival walks into Pops, he's actually walking into a portal that makes him go back to Riverdale in the old times, and they deliver him to Lucifer. The devil takes his soul, is killing him, but as Percival is dying, he does this chant, and they're like, okay, that's fucking weird. I don't know what that is. Probably won't come back. And they return back to modern time. You'll never guess what the chant did. You guess. You're not gonna guess, but you should guess. So you know Bailey's Comet? Well, it's usually just supposed to pass over Riverdale in the world, but it's actually coming right to Riverdale and it's going to kill them all. And Cheryl has to figure out a way to use her witch powers to stop the comet. To cover up plot holes, they say that Jughead can't make portals anymore, which is like, you literally just introduced the concept of him making portals. You can't just take that away immediately, but they do. And Tabitha can't can't time travel them to different universes in the future because it hits in every possible future. Like the comet's gonna hit no matter what. And Cheryl can use her witch powers to melt the comet, but that will use up all of her powers for life. And her powers are what like Sabrina and the necromancy, like that's what's keeping everyone they brought back alive. So like Jughead is alive because of that. Everyone will die. Let me read a list of all the people who will die if Cheryl does this. Archie, Jughead, Polly, Nana Rose, Dagwood, Alice, Frank, Sheriff Keller, and Fang. So they all are gonna die. Abigail says, I know how to help, but for me to help, I want one last night with my lover Thomasina. It's like, girl, the comet is coming. So they transfer Abigail's soul back into Cheryl's body momentarily and put Thomasina's body into Tony's body, and then they have sex. So Heather keeps Cheryl and Tony's souls in jars while this is happening. And Cheryl says, Heather will keep our spirits in a jar until the lovemaking ends. And I just wanted to read that word for word because I think that's actually very beautiful. The world is ending in 8 hours and they don't know if Abigail is going to return their promise. So they're all like, oh, what would you do if the world ends in 8 hours? And Tabitha and Jughead watch Titanic. Girl, that movie is like 3 hours long. That's almost 50% of your time left on Earth, girl. Not Titanic. Heather, upon seeing Tony and Cheryl's souls in the jar together, realizes that they're actually soulmates in every single time period. And Heather's like, if we all get out of this and the comet doesn't hit Earth and obliterate it, I'm gonna head back to Greendale because you two are soulmates. Which is a tough thing to hear your girlfriend say about you and your ex. Like, full stop. It's not the best thing ever. And then Veronica gets a brain blast. And she goes, I can absorb everyone's powers through my magic blood and put them all into Cheryl. So nobody else will have their magic powers anymore, but Cheryl will have them. She can use them to melt the comet, and then she still will have her powers that keep everyone alive. Are you following? So they do this by doing a blood pack, and then Veronica and Cheryl like open mouth kiss. Sure, that doesn't really feel like part of it. It feels like you wanted to kiss, but okay. So Cheryl uses her powers to destroy the comet. They all wake up in bed the next day and something's off. I want you, real quick, to guess what happened. Did you guess that Tabitha, because something went wrong, had to take everyone back in time to 1953, and it's 1953 and they're all teenagers, they're all 15-year-olds or 16-year-olds, and they're all in junior year and they're teenagers in the 1950s now, and nobody but Jughead can remember this? Did you guess that? Because that's the next season of Riverdale. They're in the 50s. That's the end of the season. That's the end. Okay. Oh, thank you so much for watching. These videos truly melt my brain, but they are a blast and a half to do. I promise, I know I say this with every video, that the final installment of this beautiful series will be out sooner because it is one season, not two. I promise. It's such a good season. We're in for such a treat. I love that last season so much. Everything that you need from me is in the description below, my Instagram, all that fun stuff. I'll see you soon. Take care of yourself. Bye.